Hello and welcome back to the Data Privacy Lawyer. My name is Funmi Owolabi and I'm the principal attorney at the firm. Today's review is going to be on cookies. So we've got a couple things. We're actually going to look at the cookie portion today. We're not going to look at the privacy. If you're interested in any privacy reviews I've done, I've got plenty on the channel. You can take a look at those. Today we're looking at cookies. About cookies on this site. So we've already got what's in scope. We use cookies to personalize and enhance your experience. So for anybody that's new and has never watched any of my reviews before, this at the bottom is what we consider to be a cookie banner. Now, what is the value of a cookie banner and why is it required under the data protection laws? Any time an organization processes personal data, and if anybody is new, a cookie constitutes personal data because it can identify an individual. If we're going to process their personal data, which is what's happening here, they are using personal data to personalize and enhance your experience on the site. And I'm going to say your, but I mean me, right? Because I'm on the site right now. So they're telling me, they're giving me a heads up. Hey, we're going to use cookies to personalize your experience. These cookies belong to you. They identify you. So we've got three buttons. We've got a white button with black writing that says accept all. We've got another one that's white with black writing that says decline all. And then we've got this, the cookie consent. And I presume that this is the preference center. But we're going to go bit by bit because I think it's really important for businesses to understand why this exists, why it is necessary, and what type of language organizations should be thinking about when they are creating their cookies. So the other thing I want to mention here is there is a lot of liaison between a privacy lawyer and the IT team, because it's the IT team that allows this banner and information to manifest. And the reason we're seeing a manifestation of this banner on this site is because there's been some discussion about what are our obligations as a business based on the data protection laws where we process personal data. Now, although I don't have insight into the geographies, generally in the European Union, organizations that process personal data there have an obligation to allow consumers to opt in to certain cookies. Now, I am a US-based lawyer, and the obligations I have as a US resident is the opportunity to opt out of cookies. So the technicality is that based on where I am a resident, this organization does not have obligations to me, Funmi Owolabi, to present me with the banner, but they do have a requirement to give me the opportunity to opt out, which is what we're going to click in a moment. But I think it's really important to take a look at what goes through this process. So if I accept all, I am saying that it's okay and I agree to this company using cookies for the purposes listed in their cookie consent tool. Now, I presume these buttons are the same. We're going to click both of them. To see a complete list of the companies that use these cookies and other technologies, let's talk a bit about other technologies. Other technologies could be something like a pixel or a beacon and what some of those insights provide. And I'll give you an example. Sometimes, I'll talk about myself personally. Sometimes I'm on the internet and let's just say I want to buy a new bag. So I go onto a website, let's just say, I don't know, Gucci. I go onto Gucci and I start clicking Gucci bags. I'm not going to click every single bag on Gucci's website. Let's say I click 3. So then I start to go onto a different website, let's just call it ebay.com. And suddenly I start getting these pop-ups that say, hey, buy the 3 Gucci bags that you selected. So I'm wondering in my brain, oh, why am I getting this? Why am I seeing insights about the 3 Gucci bags on a completely different website? The reason is because a lot of companies have now placed tracking technologies like pixels and beacons that help them, give them insight into the fact that, oh, Funmi's interested in these 3 bags. Let that information follow her from site to site. And the advertising partners in the background have that insight because it's a collaboration between companies and ad partners. They have that insight and they put it in a repository and then it's able to follow you from site to site. So if I was to click agree on some of these sites, if I agree to the cookies, then what I'm saying is it's okay for you to personalize my experience, not only on their site, but on other sites. I don't know about this particular organization, but I think that insight is valuable because if you are considering engaging with an advertising partner, you need to still understand your own obligations. The advertising partner has their own obligations. You as the data controller also have obligations too. So we can see the complete list. Let's click this link first. So we've got this cookie banner again. We've got no opt-out signal detected. Okay, this is something different that I don't want to talk about on this channel. Okay, let's talk about this. So you can see here that this section has been toggled off. If we put it on, then the analytics provider is now allowed. And I've talked about these ad partners Here are the categories that they're collecting. Now, I'm not going to click any of them. We're always going to click them off. I think this is very valuable to have. I don't want to go into too much detail. I talk a lot about data subject access requests on my privacy notice review, so you can take a look at the channel for that. But what I wanted to demonstrate was the flow associated with obtaining cookie consent from a consumer. Now, why is this necessary? Because the data protection laws dictate it. Now, companies can roll out their cookie consent preferences geography to geography. What you're going to see as a consumer is generally companies are going to adopt a global approach. They're going to look at all of the data protection laws that apply to them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they're going to say which of these has the most stringent requirements. And from that, they will effectually present and provide rights and fulfill their obligations based on the laws that are most restrictive. And you can see when I clicked on the cookie consent tool, none of these had been opted in for me. I'm going to decline all. If I click accept all, I'm pretty sure all of these will then turn blue, and then I click save preferences, but I'm not going to, and I'm going to decline all. And then we're going to look at the cookie portion of this review. So let's scroll down. Let's see. Yeah, let's talk about this. Like most websites, we use cookies and other standard internet technologies to help us make our services better. And the one thing I want to discuss is I really like the tone already of this provision, because I think that it's very easy to read for consumers that may not understand the nuances of cookies. I've done other privacy reviews and I've talked about tone and audience a lot. Tone and audience really matter because the consumers that are reading this are Roblox consumers. I'm not familiar with what products and services they have because this is a cookie review, but I think it's very important to use language in a cookie and privacy notice that is something that could be read and understood by your audience. So that's also something that I ask about in my intake form. Who is the audience for your privacy notice? Because my drafting as a privacy lawyer is going to be dictated by the audience. If this was a data processing agreement, then my drafting is going to be different because the audience for a data processing agreement are other lawyers. But when I'm drafting a privacy notice on a website for a business that targets children, the tone is going to be very different. And we're not just looking at, what the obligations are under the data protection law for audiences, but we also take into consideration, is this going to be something that's understandable? And there have been enforcement actions that have addressed the fact that companies have made it very difficult for consumers to understand what it is they're doing with respect to their privacy practices. So I really enjoyed reading this sentence. A cookie is a text file that's put on your computer or device when you visit a website. Again, the tone is very important. So we've got session cookies and we've got persistent cookies. Again, we've also got definitions, right? Because how many people that interact with an organization know what either of these mean? Most people do not. I talked a bit about pixel tags and web beacons when we were looking at the consent preference center, but we've also got that this is going to be utilized on this site. A pixel or web beacon is a piece of code that tells its owner what you do on a web page. And this is why if I click on a Gucci website, I'm seeing 3 bags on my eBay when I go on eBay, right? That's just an example. But I really hope you enjoyed this review. I think it's really fun to look at what organizations are doing with respect to their privacy practices and what they're articulating on their website. I never have insight into what organizations are doing outside of what they display on their websites, but I do think it's interesting to review and also gives insight to businesses on what considerations they might have as it pertains to their own privacy program. So I hope you enjoyed this review. If you have comments about what I've stated, leave them below and I will see you in another one.